You're listening to episode number 20 of Liz's Healthy Table.
Looking for a healthy new way to feed your family without the hassle and hype? Welcome to Liz's Healthy Table, where your host, registered dietitian nutritionist Liz Weiss, serves up fresh and flavorful recipes with a tasty side of science, good nutrition, and fun. Are you and your family ready for some wholesome food that tastes great too? Don't change that dial. Your food adventure starts here.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Show number 20. I can't believe it. For those of you who have been with me since show number 1, thank you so much for your support. And if you're just joining us and you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. So show number 20, today's show is all about meal prep. And meal prep or meal prepping, it's a big trend. And really what it means is that you grocery shop maybe once a week. You prep all your meals more or less on one day, and then you're kind of ready to go. You do all your prep, you pack everything up, and then when you're ready to eat dinner, when you walk in the door, it's 5 o'clock, you're kind of ready to go. And, meal prep is great for lunch. It's great for snacks. It's great for breakfast. And so my guest today is Toby Amidor. It's not me because I am not a meal prep queen, which is why I've got Toby coming on the show. And she's written a new book. It's called the Healthy Meal Prep Cookbook. We're actually giving away a copy. So head on over to lizshealthytable.com/podcast, and then you can enter under the episode 20 show notes. So anyway, Toby is like a hardcore meal planner. She's got 3 kids, so she knows a thing or two about meal prep. And so she's going to be here to give us kind of all the ins and outs of how to do it. So as I said, I'm not like a real big meal prepper. And I was sort of thinking, why? Like, why is it that I'm not that organized? Well, it's because I'm really not a very organized person in real life, but also because I have a lot of cookbooks and I tend to kind of grab one off the shelf and experiment, try new things. And I'm kind of going with the flow. And I'm also testing recipes a lot for the blog so that things are ever changing in my world, but I do want to get more organized. So I'm excited to have Toby on the show. I will say that on Sundays, quite often, we do fish tacos. And that is because my husband, Tim, he's very obsessed with fish tacos. I'm not sure why, but I just kind of shake it up, so we might do the crunchy tacos. We might do soft tacos. A couple of weeks ago, I just baked salmon in the oven, and that was the fish for our fish tacos. And of course, we love salmon. Great source of those heart healthy omega-3s, also good for your brain. Thank you very much. And then we have all sorts of things to stuff in the tacos. So you might have rice. Tim loves rice. We like to do black beans or like a refried bean. We'll do that. I love avocado. So we'll have avocados, shredded lettuce, cheese, you name it. Oh, last couple weeks ago, I roasted red onion and bell pepper. It was orange bell pepper. That was awesome. So when the salmon was in the oven, I was also roasting the vegetables, and that was so good. And then, of course, cilantro. You've got to have a cilantro, and if you don't love cilantro, I realize 50% of you probably don't, then you can just use parsley. So anyway, that's my fish taco story. I'm excited to have Toby on the show. A few reminders. Today's show, it is brought to you by Super Healthy Kids. They have so many great family recipes, so totally recommend checking them out at superhealthykids.com. And also today's show is brought to you by Color, Cook, Eat, which is my coloring cookbook series, which you can find on my website under the books and freebies section. And it's a really unique series of coloring books / cookbooks where you can cook and your kids can color. I've got companion coloring pages for all of the recipes, or vice versa, even better, you can color and relax while your kids cook. So be sure to check out Color, Cook, Eat over at Liz's Healthy Table. And of course, subscribe to the podcast, because when you subscribe, then my show is on your phone and it's always there for you. So anyway, let's dig deep into the secrets and the magic of meal prep. Toby Amidor, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Liz.
So today, Toby, we're going to get organized. I was not born with the organized gene, but I've been reading through your book. I'm so determined. I know what my barrier is. My barrier is that my kitchen just doesn't have a lot of countertop space, but we'll get to that in a minute. I would love to hear, though, just from you before we dig deep into the show, what exactly is meal prep? Like, define meal prepping for us.
Well, with meal prepping, it's like you said, it's getting organized early on, a lot of times on a weekend, and creating maybe depends on what you're used to or what you're comfortable with. And you can create up to 7 or 8 meals throughout the week. And they don't have to be just dinner. It could be side dishes, main dishes, breakfast, snacks. So you at least are prepared for a lot of the week with healthy meals of what you can consume.
So it's not like every day at 5 o'clock, you're like, what am I going to have for dinner? Or, in the morning, everybody comes down groggy-eyed. What are we going to make for breakfast? It's like you got a plan. Everything's kind of at the ready, or you've spent a day prepping a lot of food, right?
Right. So everything is prepared in advance, or at least halfway through the week, maybe you just have one small thing to prepare as opposed to breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. Or you've made some muffins in advance and frozen them so you have those available, when you need something in a pinch. So you're basically organizing yourself so you're always prepared to having a healthy meal in front of you, which also it cuts off when I calculated it cuts off about 45 minutes during a busy night where you can go take an exercise class, spend more time with yourself, with me time, or just spend it with loved ones. So it frees up some of your busy time.
So what would you say then? Obviously, you just said saving time, but what are some of the other benefits of this whole meal prepping concept?
Well, some of the benefits, first, besides time, is decreasing food waste. I know a lot of times you have maybe some extra, herbs laying around or vegetables that you didn't finish off and you don't know what the heck to do with it. And a lot of times you can use them if you're going to prepare a salad, put the rest of, the herbs or whatever, or hamburgers or something in there. It's creatively reusing leftovers or stuff that you would have thrown out, but, that you really don't want to throw out. Saving money, because you're pre-portioning everything out so you know how much you're going to eat kind of for the week. So that can help you save money. And then also, of course, eat healthy, especially when you're choosing healthy recipes to prepare in advance.
Oh, and you know what? I was thinking too when I was reading your book, the Healthy Meal Prep Cookbook, I was thinking that another benefit, if you have kids at home, is on that day when you're doing all your cooking, let's say, you include your kids. So if you've really made this commitment to cook with your kids more, it's not like every night you have to say, come in the kitchen. It's sort of that one day, that special day, right?
Yeah, no, I do that with my kids if I'm preparing a couple things. Like my daughter wanted me to make some pies, so she helped with that. It's funny, my girls actually helped me do testing for recipes when I wrote my cookbook. So I think my youngest daughter, who's 10, actually knows what a recipe looks like and knows how to edit recipes now.
Well, you're probably also teaching her lots of math too, right? Other than just learning how to edit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I take them to the supermarket. Since they've been babies, I put them in the shopping cart and I'll roll around and I'll say, do you know what this is? This is, a red pepper. What are we looking for when we're purchasing it? Or an apple. Look at it. Does it look like it has bruises? Is the color nice? Feel it. I do that with them since they were, since they could sit.
Sit in the carriage.
Sit in the carriage, yeah.
I would say my most organized time in my life was when my boys were really young and I would have to go out of town on business. So I was very into, dietitian. I want to make sure my kids are eating a healthy diet. So I would prep all these recipes, all this food, have it at the ready in the fridge. I would type up a whole note to my husband. I'd tell him what we had. And then I would go away. And the end of this story, I would come back from wherever I was, 3, 4, 5 days later, open the fridge. It's like...
It was all there?
It's all there. Has anybody...
Oh, my goodness.
What have you been doing? Oh, we went to this one's house because they felt sorry for us. We went to dinner and I got the takeout. I'm like, have you opened the fridge? So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. Best laid plans, right? But hey, when they're here and I'm here, it's always like, hey, Mom, what's for dinner? So I think it's great to get prepared, be ready, and have a plan. And
I agree.
You told a story in your book at the beginning about your inspiration for the book, and you told a story about your grandmother. Can you share that story with us?
Sure. So my family's from Israel. So a lot of times my grandma's one of 6 children. So when they were still all alive, I think about half have perished now, but she's still alive. She's 90. I think she's about 90 right now. She would go for about a month at a time to Israel and leave my poor grandfather behind. She wanted to hang out with, it's 5 sisters and a brother. She wanted to hang out with the girls. So she would go, but my grandfather didn't cook. Like he only made the salad, which is in my first cookbook. It's like a chopped salad. That's Zadie's salad. That's his salad. But otherwise he didn't cook. So she would make single serve trays, stack them up of meals for him to eat for the entire month, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Since that was my first time. And I mean, I was a little girl when this was being done. So I've seen meal prep done for years. And I saw every day he was so happy. He'd open it. Unlike your family, he'd actually open it and he'd warm it up. And he was like, it was love for my grandma because he loved her food. So yeah, that's the first time I saw meal prep.
Wow. So she was really organized to be able to get all of that.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think too, when people think about meal prep, they think about dinner. But when I look through your book, you've got breakfast, you've got a grain and bean chapter, you have a salad, a seafood, a poultry, a beef, a snack chapter. So it's not just the main meal. Like if you think about breakfast, a lot of people just have the cereal, have the toast. But there's so much more. Like, what kinds of recipes are ideal or conducive to this concept of meal prep where you have that one day where you're getting everything organized? What can you make ahead that's good for breakfast?
So you can make a couple of things ahead. One of my favorite ones to make ahead for the week, I love shakshuka, which is in English, eggs in purgatory, where it's a tomato sauce and eggs. And I'll eat that freaking all week. I'll eat it as like a dinner, because for me, when Israel, it's a dinner with a chopped salad on the side. But I love it for breakfast. It's eggs and tomato sauce and vegetables. And I know a lot of people aren't used to having vegetables for breakfast, but it's a great way to get in that lack of vegetables that most people have. But like quiches you can make, and those freeze beautifully. If you do whole grain pancakes, overnight oats are perfect. You can make them in individual containers and that'll last you all week long. And then in the morning, you can top it or have the kids top it with whatever they want, make like a little topping bar and put them, like sliced almonds, fresh berries, whatever they want, dried fruit, whatever they want on there. Muffins freeze beautifully. You can even put all the ingredients for a smoothie in the blender jar, put it in the fridge, and then in the morning, just blend it up.
Oh, I love that idea. And I have seen people too do individual packets in Ziplocs of smoothie ingredients, kind of labeled. You might even have some leftover spinach or baby kale, and that goes into these little Ziplocs, right? And that's in the freezer, and then you could just take that out, throw that in a blender.
Yep. And then one of the favorites in my house, we like crepes. So I'll make crepes, which I have a recipe in the meal prep cookbook. But I love crepes. They can sit on your countertop. And then in the morning, my kids would take them and fill it with whatever they want. You could do yogurt. You could do, and sometimes they like the chocolate hazelnut. I like it with yogurt. I have a fruit salsa in the cookbook, which is really fun with a little bit of yogurt. And one of my girls likes it just plain.
Nice.
So I'm like, okay.
Hey, whatever.
Yeah. But that's just another fun twist on breakfast that you could prepare in advance. And the recipe makes a night like 10 crepes. So you're good for, a nice number of meals.
Yeah, it really is good to kind of shake things up without feeling like in a panic. How am I going to get pancakes on the table this morning? I just had a pancake recipe. It's a blueberry banana pancake that's on my blog. And it's so easy. I mean, you could just make a batch, freeze them in some Ziploc bags, and then pull them out and thaw them and, heat them up. It's easy.
Right. I love that. And then even one of the things that I mentioned in the cookbook also is to creatively reuse. So just because the crepes are used with yogurt and salsa, that doesn't mean you can't have it as a dinner for something more savory. Let's say you have some leftover chicken, you can chop that up, put maybe some salsa and beans and put it instead of a tortilla. You can use a crepe and do it more. When I was in France, that's how they would do more savory crepes.
So you're saying reuse. So don't just think of a meal as this is my pulled pork done. Like there's multiple ways you can have it throughout the week.
Oh, absolutely. You can top it over a salad. You can roll it up and bring it to work as a wrap or put it in a pita. You could put it in a soup if you want. Make a broth-based soup and put some vegetables and some of the, let's say, pork or chicken in it. Absolutely.
So for people who want to jump on board this meal prep bandwagon, what are sort of the mechanics of it? You talk in your book about these prep days, and you talk about equipment like storage, containers. Give us sort of the how-tos. I want people to get your book, and we do have a giveaway going on, and I talked about it at the intro to the show, everybody, but remember, the show notes on lizshealthytable.com. That's where you'll find info on the giveaway. But talk us through, Toby, some of the how-tos of doing meal prep right.
Well, there's a couple things to get done. And like I said, for someone who is not used to being so organized, it may take a little bit of practice. So for me, I always say, start small. If you're going to go for meal prep, you don't have to do 9 recipes at once. You can start with 2 or 3. But having the right containers for storage, and also if you're planning on bringing it to work, like a salad in a mason jar, then get some mason jars. They're relatively inexpensive and they come in all kinds of sizes. So having them, you want them stackable, especially if I know you just said your space is limited, BPA free, look for leak proof, especially if you're going to transport the meals in them, like that it's not going to spill over. And then make sure if you're going to use the microwave, dishwasher, and freezer, you want to make sure that your containers are able to be used in those locations as well.
And then what about that prep day? Like, I know you talk about having a shopping list because you've got to get to the store. Like, you don't go shopping the day you're prepping, right? Like, you would go shop the day before.
I don't like to.
That's
right.
a lot.
Right. Sometimes I get stuck and I'll make less recipes if I have to. But first thing before, so I have my containers. Now I'll go and pick my recipes that I want and make sure that I have at least one breakfast, at least 1 to 2 snacks. Those are pretty easy to whip up, even a trail mix that you can just make a double batch of. And then I'll have a couple of main dishes and sides. So, I want to pick out my recipes. And then I make a shopping list in accordance to the flow of the supermarket. So when I walk in, usually, I don't know, Liz, by you, the first thing is produce.
Sure.
That's by me. It's the produce usually. So I'll go the way I like to walk around the supermarket. I'll make my list in that way so I'm not running around forgetting 3 things in different corners of the supermarket.
So you got your list. You come home, next day, prep day. So I love how you do this in the book because you talk people through, here's what you can prep today, and you'll give people a bunch of recipes. And I notice you always start with the slow cooker. Fill your slow cooker. Why do you do that?
Always. And remember, I wrote this cookbook relatively quickly, I think in less than 6 weeks. So I had a lot of recipes to test as well. And when I always tested my recipes, slow cooker always went first because it needs 4 to 6 hours usually to cook, unless you have like a poached pear that will take less time. And so I knew that I had one recipe. I didn't have to think about it. The slow cooker does all the work for you once you have all the ingredients in there. And it took 10 minutes to do that. So let me get one recipe out of the way. And usually it's a main.
And then from there, you keep building, you keep going. And, even today, I made your Tuna Nicoise Salad. And then I was all ready to make your farro tabbouleh. Farro is a whole grain for people who aren't familiar with it. I actually bought the 10-minute farro. I'm a little cheat sheet at Trader Joe's because it cooks a lot quicker. But I'm getting ready to make that farro salad. But then as I was looking through your book, I saw that you have a recipe in your seafood chapter for farro, sardines, and greens. Now, people know I'm not a fan of sardines. I'm trying to like them. I'm working on it. It's a goal for 2018, okay? But
it's a good one.
Yeah. Simon is my 19-year-old, and he's home now. And he said to me the other day, Mom, I really like sardines. I'm like, what? So I bought, okay. Like, where'd you come from? Who are you? And so I think I might make the farro, sardines, and greens because I've got spinach in the fridge. I've got the farro now. I've got the sardines. So I'm going to brave in it. I'm making it. I'm going to do it.
It's so easy and it's so well balanced and you'll love it. It's just, you can use any greens you want, saute it up with a little bit of olive oil and garlic. That's it. You don't need much more. And the farro, if you want more flavor, then use any kind of, broth, bone broth, low sodium, whatever broth you have laying around.
I'm going to do it. I will report back. And in the show notes, I will share with everybody how it all turns out. So talk about good nutrition, because the title of your book is the Healthy Meal Prep Cookbook. So why does meal prep equal good nutrition? What's the connection?
Well, I think it's what you meal prep. That's why I said choosing your recipes is important too, because you want to have it well balanced out there. So if you look even at the pictorial image of my plate, there's half the plate is fruits and vegetables, and then you have your whole grains, which half of your grain should be whole grain, that's what's recommended, and then lean protein with some dairy. So that's still what you want to think of when you're meal prepping. So if I realize, let's say for a day, I don't have a cheese and something or dairy, then I'll make sure I have a yogurt as, let's say, an afternoon snack to fit it in and make sure I have my dairy in there. So I do think, or if I don't have a fruit, let's say as a main meal, and sometimes you'll see, like I have apricot chicken drumsticks, or I throw in dried fruit places just so you can up the fruit because most people don't get enough. But making sure that you have a well-balanced meals that you're picking out to prep, that's the key to making sure it's healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, and the thing too that I love about your book and just looking at these recipes, I feel like they're very much adaptable. In other words, like the Tuna Nicoise Salad. Simon does not love tomatoes. I love tomatoes. My husband loves tomatoes. This salad is pretty versatile. I mean, instead of the tomatoes, you could add red bell pepper. So your recipe calls for roasted potatoes. And so I roasted up a bunch of potatoes, and I'll probably repurpose them, but I diced these red potatoes into 1-inch cubes. And it calls for green beans, which is really kid-friendly. And I use baby spinach in this recipe, and tuna packed in oil, and lemon juice. And so these are all familiar ingredients. And so I made it this afternoon, took pictures, because, I want to do a blog post on one of your recipes. And I portioned out one of the salads. Everything else is sort of in its own containers. So Simon walks in this afternoon. He's hungry. I could see he's eating some leftover goodies from New Year's Eve. And I'm like, all right, you need some real food. So I pulled this tuna salad out of the fridge, tossed it his way. So he's like eating it. It's got tuna. Oh, it's got eggs in it. Can I just tell you my favorite way to hard boil eggs, to hard cook eggs, Toby? Because it is.
What is it?
It is life-changing, okay? I hope you're sitting down. All right. I had a friend come over today, and I'm like, you got to check this out. She couldn't believe it. I just take a steamer basket, and I put it in a pot with some water, and I bring the water to a boil, kind of like if you were going to steam vegetables. And then I very carefully with tongs, I just place the eggs right into the steamer basket. I cover the pot. I lower the heat so it's just steaming gently. So this recipe of yours called for 4 eggs, hard cooked. So I gently place them in the steamer basket, put the lid on, set the timer for 16 minutes, and then pull it off the heat, remove the eggs with the tongs, put them in a bowl of ice water for a couple of minutes, and I'm done. And then they peel so easily. And my friend was like, wait a minute, are those old eggs? Are they new eggs? What's your secret? What did you do? Like boom, 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 peeled, done. And beautiful. You slice them open, and they're just that beautiful yellow yolk. I'm telling you, life-changing. Wow. Oh, yeah, you got to try it. It's so...
I will. Yeah, my method that I list out is very similar, just without the steamer basket, just to boil it a few minutes and then shut the water off and take it off the heat, and basically you're steaming them.
That's what I used to do, but it's harder to peel, and I don't know what it is.
Oh, interesting.
It's the peeling. Oh my gosh, it's so easy. It's actually really kind of fun. I'm thinking I got to do a Facebook Live on this or something because it's just so fab. And people also say that the Instant Pot, I don't know if you've played with it, that doing hard-cooked eggs in the Instant Pot is also easy to peel.
I have to look into that. No, I'm a minimalist. So until I got the slow cooker, though, that's been life-changing. I don't love so many contraptions in my kitchen, though I've heard such great things about it.
Yep. Hey, so tell me, you got 3 kids. How old are they? And what would you say are their favorite recipes from your cookbook?
My son is 15. My daughters are 12 and 10. They got mad there's no desserts in this one, I have to say.
But you have snacks, and the snacks look really great.
Yeah, no, but the apricot chicken drumsticks is one of my son's favorites. And then anything, honestly, muffins or pancakes or carby-like, that's my youngest girl. She kind of likes that. And my middle one loves the crepes.
Okay. All right. And then what about like main meals? You said the chicken, right? The chicken apricot dish.
The chicken. I'm trying to think. They tested the tri-colored pepper steak, so they like that one. Oh, the barbecue chicken in the slow cooker they loved, because then what I did with it, remember I said creatively reuse? Mm-hmm. I creatively reused it on a pizza the next day, and I have that recipe in the cookbook,
Oh, yum. Too. Oh, I love that idea, because everybody loves pizza.
Yep, it did real nicely. I also have a bean soup, a root vegetable and bean soup, and that was inspired with my son, who's crazy about that.
Are you printing something?
Yeah, I just looked. My son, it's a universal printer. Someone decided to print right now.
That's okay. We're going to keep this in the show, Toby, because you have what's called a real life. And so this is what happens in real life.
And I'm trying to read who's printing now, and they knew I was on an interview.
They're busted. They're busted. So I have a closed group on Facebook. It's my podcast posse. Anybody can join. I hope you'll join, Toby. But I posted the other day that I was going to have you on the show. So I asked people, hey, if you have a question for Toby, what is it? Or if you have an idea, something that works for you with meal planning and prep, share away. And so Jean, one of our podcast posse members, she wants to know from you, Toby, what are the top 3 items that you keep on hand in your pantry for meal prep? I mean, wow, that's a tough one because I bet you have lots of ingredients in your pantry.
It's funny. I keep quinoa. I keep black canned beans because my son and I both really love them. So I can always make like quinoa and beans in a pinch as a side for something. And then I always have chicken stock, like a low sodium, whether it's beef or some broth or bone broth or something of that sort. So my family, especially my son and my middle daughter, are crazy for soup. So I can take any leftovers and whip up a soup.
That's great. I love that. So practical, right?
And I can make flavored quinoa.
Right. Because quinoa, if you make it in water, can be kind of boring, right? So you cook it in some broth that's a little more exciting. And you do have quite a few recipes in the book with quinoa. You even have a breakfast recipe for quinoa.
Yeah, what I was trying to do in the book, too, is not go crazy. If quinoa is not your thing, then choose a whole grain that you like for you, if it's farro, if it's sorghum, or whatever it is. But that, I was trying to keep it simple. So then if you wanted to go to like a warehouse store and buy a big quinoa, look, you can have it. And then it's a lot of recipes. You could do the same thing with brown rice or whatnot. Good stuff. So Carrie, another podcast posse member, she has a question about vegetables. She said, I saw one person cook frozen broccoli and then place it in with her other items in the fridge to be reheated later. She said, I prefer fresh broccoli. Is it better to cook it and then reheat it? Or is there another way? I'm not quite sure what she's getting at here. So she wants to know just about the best way to get fresh broccoli on the table, or frozen broccoli rather, without kind of losing the nutrients, right? Because if you're going to cook it, then reheat it, is that a problem? Or should we just be happy we're eating vegetables? So with frozen vegetables, water, heat, and cutting it into small pieces. And that's really with the fresh. But those are some things that will destroy vitamins. Minerals aren't so easily destroyed. So you don't want to boil it. So any kind of quick cooking method is best. So if you're going to stir fry and you only need about a teaspoon of oil to stir fry, or if you want to steam is a great way. It's quick and easy, or blanch when you put it in water quickly and then put it on ice to stop the cooking. That will help retain the nutrients better than putting it in a lot of water and boiling.
Okay, so a quick prep for fresh or frozen is the way to go. And is it a problem then if you, say, prep your frozen broccoli, pop it in the fridge, and then use it 2 days later and reheat it?
I don't think it's going to lose many of the nutrients. Again, unless you're going to boil it, you also want to keep it covered and sealed because oxygen can also destroy some of the vitamins. So keep it in a sealed container is really important too. And then when you cook it, then I would probably eat it right away, because the more times that you're going to, take it out and reheat it again and reheat it again, it can actually destroy the nutrients.
Okay. Got it. Makes sense. Hey, Jackie says, do you plan a certain meal on a certain day, like Taco Tuesday? Is that something you think about when you're doing meal prepping?
I like Sunday night family meals. I don't necessarily have a specific day for like tacos or pizza, because I'm also a single mom. So my kids go back and forth between the houses, even though they're mostly by me. But I make sure we have a family meal Sunday night. And a lot of times I do a slow cooker meal on Sunday night, because I'll do it in the morning, pop it in there, and then I have it for the evening.
Good stuff. Yeah. And, I love the slow cooker too. And I've been doing over the years, like pulled pork or pulled chicken, anything with barbecue sauce seems to taste really good. And I also have a recipe for a bean and barley soup in the slow cooker.
Ooh.
Yeah, with mushrooms. That is so good. And when the next time I share it on social media, I will tag you because it's really good stuff.
I need to make that. Yeah, my son would, and I would love that too.
Yeah, it's super yummy. Beth says that she's looking forward to the podcast, and she actually has a tip. She says that the best tip is to always cook extra meat for the freezer. She says, I always have shredded chicken and beef, pulled pork, and taco meat on hand for quick meals. I think that's a great tip.
I love that. I have it with soups because my kids are such soup lovers, and you could put so much stuff, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, and soups.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. And Diana Rice, you probably know her, the Baby Steps dietitian. Mm-hmm. She was on my podcast, was it episode 4 maybe? I can't quite remember.
Wow.
About cooking with kids. And you're episode 20. I mean, you're very important, Toby. You're a VIP here.
Ooh,
Yeah. So Diana says, my best tip is that I focus on prepping meals that feature a protein, veggie, and carb all in one dish, such as enchiladas and lasagna, so that I can just heat and eat on busy weeknights and not worry about juggling multiple pans. So that's like the all-in-one supper. I like that idea.
I like that too. That's like a good chili.
Yes. And the reason I love a good chili too is that everybody can customize the toppings. So it feels a little more special and fresh versus, oh no, chili again. It's that kind of reuse idea of just even shaking up the toppings.
And you know what I did with mine? And it's in the cookbook, but my kids loved it. I put it as a quesadilla. I put a chili quesadilla.
Oh, I love that.
It was a white bean chili, and they loved it.
I love that idea. You know, and I happen to love cilantro, although we know it's a very polarizing food. Not everybody loves it. But anything like that recipe, I would throw in a ton of cilantro, and then I'd be so happy. A little bit of shredded cheese.
I like the cheese.
Yeah.
I like cilantro too, but my parents used to own a cheese store in New York City downtown when I was in high school. So I got to work there and I just tasted hundreds of cheeses and I just fell in love with cheese.
Oh, I didn't know that about you. Oh, and the other thing, because I want everybody to get to know you a little bit, but you work at the Food Network, and I think people will be really interested in hearing about what you do for Food Network.
Sure. I've been there almost 10 years. I'm actually a satellite consultant for them and their nutrition expert. I've been blogging on their Healthy Eats blog since it was born. I think it was 2008, if it's 10 years almost. 2009, I can't remember. But yeah, I've been blogging for them and contributing to their blog for almost 10 years, and I help with projects that they have over there. So it's been a ton of fun. That's so cool. And I'm sure you've met quite a few celeb chefs then through them. Well, I've worked on Bobby Dean's show, Not My Mama's Meals, for a couple of seasons. Mm-hmm. So I helped on that. And yeah, I've met a couple of celebrity chefs I was lucky enough to meet. And yeah, they were super nice. Is there a celebrity chef? I normally ask this at the end of the show, but since we're on the topic, is there a celeb chef that you would love to meet that you've never met before? I've been so blessed at what I do that I've met so many amazing chefs from around the world that I think I would go with one who's not in this world right now. And I would love to meet Julia Child probably and just have a meal that she's literally whipped up with her hands. That would be really cool. She used to live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I live in Lexington, just down the street pretty much. And many years ago when I worked for CNN, I had the opportunity to interview her a couple of times. And the last time I interviewed her, she was filming one of her shows with Jacques Pepin. And after a day of filming, I'm sitting here with these two icons hanging out. It was unbelievable. And they're so lovely and so funny. And I happened to be pregnant at the time. And Julia kept offering me a glass of wine. And I'm like, Julia, I'm pregnant. I can't have it. And she just, have a little glass of wine. And oh my gosh. You do a good impression. Why, thank you. So yeah, she was lovely. And, her kitchen is on display at the Smithsonian. And, when I saw it a couple of years ago, and it just was like, oh my gosh, this is totally her kitchen. She had this pegboard where she had outlined I'm sure Paul, her husband, did this, but the pots and the pans that she hung on a pegboard, they were all outlined. So goodness. Yeah, so you knew exactly where everything belonged. Pretty organized, right? Talk about that's more than me, and I know where all my pots are. And you are the meal prep guru, and you don't have a pegboard. What's wrong with you? No, I don't. I don't know. I feel inadequate. You need a pegboard.
That can be your 2018 goal. Mine is to love sardines. Yours is to have a pegboard. There you go.
There we go.
Hey, where does your recipe inspiration come from? I mean, you're cranking out cookbooks. You've got another one in the works. Where do you get your inspiration?
You know something, for me, it's simple recipes that I know that my family, that I would eat. And I am the messiest cook. It's like a tornado hits my kitchen. I don't do any of that fancy picturesque type of recipes. It's just not my style, but everything I cook is tasty and easy. And so that's what I think about when I create recipes, and I try to utilize different ingredients that you can easily substitute also. Or like you said, you don't want the tomatoes, leave out the tomatoes, put some red peppers in there. So I really try to make it for someone. It could be even an expert cook who just wants to get food on, a delicious, healthy meal on the table. Quick, easy, simple, delicious.
Fantastic. And do you have a favorite cookbook, a book that you have on your bookshelf that you kind of turn to time and time again? I know for me, it's, everybody knows I love Yotam Ottolenghi. I love all his cookbooks, but is there something, and he's got a shakshuka in one of his books, which I've always wanted to make, but I want to make yours next.
There's a couple of ways, by the way, to make shakshuka. You can put it in the oven. You can also poach the eggs in the tomato sauce, sort of. Like when you cover it, it's a steam poach, if you will. So yeah, there's different ways. Mine's a stovetop.
So what's your cookbook of choice? Is there a book that you love that you turn to time and time again?
So it's funny. The cookbook that I have on my shelf, which I have recipes I love, are from Ellie Krieger. I just love the simplicity of her recipes. And when my kids are started to become old enough, I started cooking a lot out of her cookbooks, and they've become staples in my house.
Fantastic. She's going to be on my show in 2018. I actually ran into her at our conference. We have a big nutrition conference every year. And I said, Ellie, I need to have you on my podcast. And she's got a PBS cooking show now for people who aren't familiar with Ellie. So we're going to get her on the show as well. I don't know, maybe show 25. Who knows? I haven't gotten that far.
There you go.
I'm not that organized, as you know. I get a lot accomplished in my day, Toby, but do not have that gene. I sure wish I did.
Sometimes I'm too organized.
Oh, you think? Ah.
Got to get right in the middle.
Yeah, we got the yin and yang here. So when it comes to meal prep, Toby, I don't want to give it all away because I would love for folks to check out your book. But is there anything else you want to share for people who want to jump into meal prep and get themselves a little more organized in the kitchen in 2018?
Well, like I said, I think one of the most important things is to remember is you don't have to go all out 9 recipes and start slow. Even if you start with 3 and you're making a double batch of one of them or 2 of them, so you have something for later on in the week, get used to the idea of having meals ready for you. You'll be shocked the nights that you have the meals already. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this hour I have free? Because I don't have to slave over the stove, go to the supermarket because I've done all that already. So it's really a life changer. And I think in the year 2018, you will see much more about cooking at home, just simple, easy, quick, and meal prep type recipes. So,
is that a trend? Do you think meal prepping is a trend for 2018?
I think cooking simple is a trend, and meal prepping for sure is a trend.
Why is that? You think we just got a little too carried away in the last couple of years and everybody needs to just take a chill pill in the kitchen?
I think we're just all so busy. Time is our greatest commodity, if you will. And so if we can cut back on time, then we're able to do other things that we need. And so this is just one way you can cut back on time.
I love it. You have convinced me. I've got your book in my hot little hands. Well, I got the online version, but one of our listeners will win your book. So head on over to lizshealthytable.com/podcast and check out the show notes for episode 20. Toby, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on number 20.
This was a great show, everybody, and I am so inspired. I wish I could have shared more of the recipes from the book, but I will have a recipe for Toby's tuna salad nicoise as a separate blog post because it is so good. And I know it is so good because Simon has eaten the entire thing. Well, he's working his way through it. Toby, thanks again for being on the show.
Okay, thanks so much for having me.
Okay, folks, you heard it here. Head on over to lizshealthytable.com/podcast. If you love the show, feel free to post a review. And as always, subscribe. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. This show is everywhere. Have a great week. Get cooking. And thanks for listening to Liz's Healthy Table.